Have you ever noticed how quickly a room changes when someone brilliant walks in? Not the physical room, but the room inside your mind. What if the sudden anxiety you feel around a talented new person has nothing to do with their ability and everything to do with a quiet, hidden wound inside of you? Most of the time, we believe that another person's success is a direct threat to our own. But what if the very thing making you feel invisible is also the key to your ultimate emotional freedom? If you have ever felt anxious, exhausted by ambition, or secretly threatened by someone else's light, this is for you. Stay until the end, because the final lesson may change the way you look at your own worth forever. 1. The heavy burden of constant comparison. Here is a truth few people are willing to admit aloud. The moment someone faster, brighter, or more talented steps into your environment, a silent alarm goes off in the mind. You smile, you shake their hand, you welcome them to the team. But beneath the surface, your mind begins to race. You start replaying your own past accomplishments, nervously measuring them against this newcomer's potential. Suddenly, the job or role you felt so confident in yesterday feels like a fragile piece of glass you must desperately protect today. You begin working harder, not out of joy, but out of fear. You stay later, you push yourself further. You turn your ambition into a weapon, and you point it directly at yourself. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that much of our suffering comes from a clinging mind. We cling to our identities. We attach ourselves tightly to the labels we have earned: the smart one, the reliable one, the star performer. But in Buddhist thought, whenever we attach our inner peace to an external condition like a title, a rank, or the praise of a boss, we build our house on shifting sand. We forget the universal law of impermanence. Roles change, new people arrive, life flows, and when we try to freeze that river from flowing, we drown in our own anxiety. Imagine a single candle burning brightly in a quiet, dark room. It provides light, warmth, and comfort. Then, someone brings a second, taller candle into the room and places it on the same table. Does the first candle lose its light? Does its flame become any less real? No. The room simply grows brighter, but the human ego does not think like a candle. The ego believes that if another light shines, our light must be fading into the darkness. We see this constantly in modern life. We turn colleagues into competitors. We view a co-worker's brilliant idea as our own personal defeat. We carry the exhausting weight of constant comparison, silently terrified that if we are not the absolute best, we are somehow nothing at all. This is not true ambition. This is self-punishment, disguised as drive. Ask yourself, when did your work become a battleground for your self-worth? What are you afraid will happen if you simply let this new person be good at what they do, without it meaning anything negative about you? Pause. Breathe. The next time you feel that sudden tightening in your chest when someone else succeeds, simply observe the thought without following it. Do not judge yourself for feeling threatened. Let the feeling rise. Acknowledge the fear hiding beneath it, and watch it pass like a cloud drifting across a vast, open sky. Because peace is not found by outshining everyone around you. It is found by realizing your light was never in danger to begin with. But letting go of comparison is only the first step. To truly find relief, we must look at the deeply held illusion driving this fear. And this is where the next truth begins. 2. The illusion that success is a scarce resource. What if the hardest battles you fight are for things that never actually run out? Here is a truth that goes against everything the modern world tries to make us believe. The world is not running out of room for you. When a talented new colleague receives praise, or when someone else effortlessly solves a problem you have been struggling with, the mind instantly calculates a loss. We operate on a quiet, desperate belief that there is only a limited amount of success, respect, or validation in the world. We feel that if they get a piece, our share has just become painfully smaller. This hidden belief turns every workday into a silent, exhausting game. A game where the music is always about to stop, and you are terrified of being left standing alone, unnoticed and unvalued. Buddhist wisdom teaches us the profound danger of this scarcity mindset. This suffering is deeply rooted in craving and attachment, not necessarily a craving for wealth, but an intense craving for significance. In Buddhist thought, the illusion of separateness makes us believe we are in constant competition with everything around us. But abundance is not a material condition you can measure. It is an awakened state of mind. When we view the world through the narrow lens of lack, we suffer immensely. We become tight, we become defensive. The practice of non-attachment invites us to see that joy, achievement, and worth are not limited commodities locked away in a vault. Imagine standing beside a vast, ancient river flowing endlessly toward the ocean. If a traveler walks down to the riverbank and scoops up a cup of water, does the river suddenly become empty? If 100 strangers stand beside you, filling their own jars and buckets, does it steal from your ability to drink? The water continues to flow, generous and unending. There is enough for the roots of the towering trees, enough for the birds resting in the branches, and enough for you. Yet, in our daily lives and our careers, we treat respect and success like a shallow puddle evaporating in the harsh midday sun. We see a co-worker leading a successful project or being acknowledged by a leader, and our throat suddenly feels dry. We panic, deeply believing that their talent is drinking up the only recognition left in the room. This fear slowly drains your creative energy. It isolates you from the people who could be your greatest teachers. It takes the beautiful, shared human effort of work and turns it into a lonely, bitter battlefield. Ask yourself, who convinced you that there was not enough room for your unique voice? Think about your own life. What if their victory takes absolutely nothing away from your journey? Is this competitive thought bringing you peace, or is it merely feeding your oldest fears? Stop, breathe. The next time you see someone else being celebrated, consciously soften your grip. Silently remind yourself that their success is not your failure. Let their achievement exist exactly as it is, without turning it into a cruel measurement of your own worth. Do your part, then release the outcome. Because true inner peace is completely impossible when you are constantly guarding a treasure that cannot actually be stolen. But recognizing this illusion of scarcity is only part of the journey. To truly heal the hidden wound of comparison, we must examine why we so desperately need that external validation in the first place. And this is where the next truth begins. 3. The danger of tying your worth to your work. What if the foundation you are building your entire life upon could vanish in a single afternoon? Here is the truth few people want to face. You are not what you do. We spend years carefully constructing an identity around our careers, our output, and our usefulness to others. When a new, talented colleague arrives and effortlessly takes the spotlight, the fear we feel is not just about losing a promotion or a project. It is the terrifying dread of losing ourselves. If they are now the bright one, the creative one, or the hardest worker, then who are you? We wrap our self-esteem so tightly around our job titles and daily tasks that a single moment of being ignored in a meeting feels like a devastating emotional attack. Buddhism reminds us of the profound danger of seeking false refuge. We desperately seek safety in things that are inherently unstable. Our status, our reputation, our professional achievements. The Buddhist teaching of non-self invites us to seek that there is no fixed, permanent identity that we must constantly defend. When we merge our deep, intrinsic worth with external, temporary conditions like a job, we guarantee our own suffering. We become prisoners to praise and terrified of blame. We ride a turbulent, exhausting wave of other people's opinions, mistakenly believing that our value rises and falls with our daily performance. Imagine a beautiful ancient tree standing gracefully on the edge of a great forest. If you could ask the tree what it is, it would not point to the green leaves that bloom in the spring, nor would it point to the sweet fruit it drops in the summer. It knows that the leaves will eventually fall. It knows the harsh winter wind will strip its branches bare. The tree's true strength, its very life, is in its deep, quiet, hidden roots. But, as humans, we live as if our entire worth is in our leaves. We believe that if the autumn wind of change takes away our visible success, we will simply cease to exist. We see this heavy burden in modern life every single day. We stay up late perfecting a presentation, not just to share a good idea, but to silently prove we still have value. We feel a crushing pressure to succeed, to always be the one with the perfect answer, to never fall behind. When a brilliant coworker shines, the wind shakes our branches. We panic. We exhaust ourselves trying to tape dead leaves back onto our limbs, terrified of looking bare. We completely forget our roots. Ask yourself, if you stripped away your title, your daily tasks, and the praise of your peers, what remains? Think about your own life. Are you defending your true essence, or merely a temporary role you were hired to play? Pause, breathe, separate the work you do from the soul that does it. Let a mistake at work simply be a mistake, not a permanent measure of your heart. Let a colleague's brilliance be just that brilliance, not a judgment on your existence. Because peace is not found by building an indestructible identity. It is found by realizing you do not need a perfect identity to be entirely worthy of peace. But separating your worth from your work requires facing what is actually hiding beneath the panic. And this is where the next truth begins. 4. The mirror of our own hidden insecurities. What if the person who frustrates you the most is actually showing you the exact place where you need to heal? Here is a truth that is deeply uncomfortable to accept. The irritation you feel toward a brilliant new colleague has very little to do with them. When someone walks into your life and effortlessly commands the room, the sudden flash of intimidation or resentment is not a reaction to their talent. It is an encounter with your own unhealed doubts. We project our silent insecurities onto their visible competence. If they are younger and full of fresh ideas, they inadvertently remind us of our quiet fear of falling behind. If they are bold and speak their mind easily, they highlight the spaces where our own voices shake. We convince ourselves that they are the problem. We believe they are arrogant, or too ambitious, or trying to steal the credit. But in reality, we are not threatened by their presence. We are threatened by what their presence reflects back to us. Buddhist wisdom teaches us to approach our strong aversions with gentle curiosity. In Buddhist thought, the external world often acts as a vast mirror for our internal state. When we experience intense aversion, the desperate urge to push someone away or tear them down, Buddhism reminds us that this is a powerful teacher. The suffering does not live in the external trigger. The suffering lives in the hidden attachment to our own feelings of inadequacy. True mindfulness invites us to stop trying to control the outside world and instead to look inward with profound honesty. Imagine a quiet, still lake resting silently in a valley, its surface completely smooth. When a heavy stone is thrown into the center, the water violently ripples and splashes. But the water is not angry at the stone. The ripples only happen because of what lies beneath the surface. The talented newcomer is simply the stone. The ripples disrupting your peace are your own unresolved fears. If a stone is thrown onto solid rock, there is no splash. The disturbance only proves that there is something deep and unsettled within your own waters. Yet, in our modern careers, we spend almost all our energy trying to stop the stones from falling. We desperately try to find flaws in the new person's work, We subtly dismiss their ideas in meetings. We wait for them to make a mistake so we can briefly feel secure again. We waste precious emotional energy trying to dictate how brightly someone else is allowed to shine. We do this to protect ourselves, completely unaware that we are exhausting our own spirits to fight a simple reflection. Ask yourself, what specific trait in this person makes you feel the most vulnerable? Think about your own life. Are you truly upset by their success, or are they simply reminding you of a quiet fear you have been running away from? Pause, breathe. The next time you feel that sharp sting of jealousy or threat, do not fixate on the person who caused it. Look gently at the wound they accidentally touched. Let the feeling rise without making it your identity. You do not need to judge yourself for feeling small. Simply observe the ripple in the water until it naturally settles. Because peace is never achieved by breaking all the mirrors around you. It is found by making peace with what you see in the reflection. But observing this reflection can be incredibly heavy when we are already worn out from constantly trying to prove our worth. And this is where the next truth begins. 5. The exhaustion of punishing ambition. What if the very drive that brought you this far is the exact thing slowly destroying you? Here is the truth few people want to face. Ambition without awareness is just another form of self-punishment. We are taught to glorify the grind. When a talented new person arrives in our space, our immediate, unspoken instinct is to outwork them. We push ourselves far past the point of exhaustion. We sacrifice our quiet moments, our evenings, and our inner calm just to maintain our invisible rank. We believe that if we just push a little harder, manage every detail a little better, or control the outcome flawlessly, we will finally feel secure. But the finish line always keeps moving. The ambition that once felt like a joyful, purposeful journey now feels like a heavy, cold chain we must drag behind us every single day. We become prisoners to our own drive. Buddhist wisdom teaches us the profound difference between right effort and restless striving. In Buddhist thought, clinging tightly to a specific outcome turns even our best actions into a profound source of suffering. When our daily effort is driven by the quiet fear of being replaced, we are no longer acting with a clear, open mind. We are acting entirely out of delusion. Buddhism reminds us that true balance, the middle way, is never about giving up or surrendering your goals. It is about finding the delicate space where your energy flows naturally, completely free from the forceful, desperate grasping that slowly breaks your spirit. Imagine a wild bird accidentally trapped inside a quiet room. The room has an open door, but the terrified bird does not see it. Desperate to escape, the bird flies frantically against the solid glass of a closed window. It throws its small body against the hard, invisible barrier over and over again. It exhausts its wings. It bruises itself in its relentless, punishing ambition to break through. It works incredibly hard, and its effort is massive, but its effort is pointed in the wrong direction. All it needs to do is stop, rest its tired wings for a single moment, turn around, and feel the soft, natural breeze coming from the open door just behind it. In our modern careers, we are so often that exhausted bird. We see a new colleague thriving, and instead of taking a deep breath, we throw ourselves violently against the glass. We take on more projects than any one person can manage. We try to force our way into feeling secure, believing that relentless struggle and late nights will somehow protect our standing. We mistake our own exhaustion for importance. We punish ourselves with our own ambition, completely ignoring the open door of peace that is always waiting behind us if we simply stopped fighting the glass. Ask yourself, are you working so hard out of true inspiration, or out of a desperate, heavy fear of falling behind? Think about your own life. What are you truly afraid will happen if you simply stop trying to force the door open? Pause. Breathe. The next time you feel the overwhelming urge to overwork, just to prove your worth to a room that is already moving on, do nothing. Stop trying to force the outcome. Do your honest part, then release the result. Let the frantic, heavy energy naturally settle, because peace is not found by exhausting yourself to stay one step ahead of everyone else. It is found by realizing that sustainable growth requires space, quiet, and rest. But to truly stop punishing ourselves with ambition, we must learn a completely different way to look at the joy of others. And this is where the next truth begins. 6. The antidote of sympathetic joy. What if the exact thing you are avoiding is the only medicine that can heal you? Here is a truth that feels completely impossible when you are hurting. You can actually learn to be happy for the person who makes you feel small. When a talented new colleague is praised, our deeply ingrained instinct is to look for their hidden flaw. We intentionally withhold our applause. We offer a forced, polite smile in the hallway, but inside, a quiet and heavy bitterness begins to build. We secretly believe that if we truly celebrate their victory, we are somehow admitting our own defeat. We hold on to our resentment tightly, believing that this coldness acts as a shield to protect our fragile ego. But here is the painful reality. This resentment does not hurt them at all. They continue to shine, while the bitterness slowly poisons your own heart. Buddhist wisdom teaches us a profound and challenging practice known as sympathetic joy. It is the direct, powerful antidote to envy. In Buddhist thought, sympathetic joy is the ability to find genuine happiness in the success, talent, and good fortune of others. It goes against every instinct of the frightened ego. Buddhism reminds us that joy is not a limited possession that we must aggressively guard. When we actively practice sympathetic joy, we break the heavy chains of jealousy. We step out of the illusion of competition and realize that celebrating another person's light can actually heal our own inner darkness. Imagine a vast field of dry, heavy soil that has not seen rain in months. The ground is hard, protective, and deeply cracked. Suddenly, a single vibrant seed breaks through the dirt and blooms brightly into a flower. If the soil had an ego, it might resent the flower. It might tighten up, fearing the flower is stealing its tiny bit of moisture. It might harden itself even further. But if the soil simply softens, relaxes, and allows the roots to spread, it discovers a beautiful truth. The flower provides shade. Its roots hold the fragile earth together when the harsh winds blow. By supporting the flower, the soil itself becomes deeply nourished and alive again. In our daily lives, we so often choose to act like the dry, hardened earth. We see a brilliant coworker bloom, and we immediately tighten up. We cross our arms in meetings. We refuse to ask for their perspective, terrified that acknowledging their skill will make us look weak. We lock ourselves inside a cold, lonely jealousy. But what if their incredible talent is actually a gift to your environment? What if their brilliance is exactly what the project needed, finally giving you the space to breathe, rest, and focus on your own unique strengths? Ask yourself, what is this hidden bitterness actually costing you? Think about your own life. Are you truly protecting yourself, or are you just exhausted from carrying the heavy, silent weight of envy? Pause. Breathe. The next time someone else receives the praise you secretly wanted, try a quiet experiment. Do not roll your eyes. Do not look for a reason to tear them down. Silently, in your own mind, simply wish them well. Let the heavy armor of resentment fall to the floor, because peace is not found by waiting quietly for others to fail. It is found by expanding your heart enough to hold their success beautifully alongside your own. But softening your heart toward a talented colleague naturally opens the door to a completely new way of working. And this is where the next truth begins. 7. Shifting from competition to collaboration. What if the person you are trying so desperately to defeat is actually the exact person meant to help you carry the load? Here is a truth that goes against everything our anxious minds tell us. You do not have to survive entirely on your own. We are deeply conditioned to view our professional lives as a dangerous solo climb up a very steep mountain. When a highly talented new colleague arrives, our first instinct is to immediately guard our territory. We hoard our best ideas. We stop sharing information. We view the workplace as a silent, high-stakes game, where every move they make is a direct attempt to take what is ours. We work late, double-checking our emails, analyzing their performance, and plotting our next move. We think this hypervigilance keeps us safe, but in reality, it only builds a lonely, invisible fortress that traps us inside. This constant, quiet defense mechanism leaves us completely isolated and profoundly exhausted. Buddhist wisdom teaches us the beautiful and profound truth of interdependence. In Buddhist thought, nothing in the universe exists in absolute isolation. The illusion of the separate, independent self fighting endlessly against the world is the root of immense human suffering. We are all deeply connected, rising and falling together. When we shift our perspective from fearful competition to open collaboration, we stop fighting the natural, flowing rhythm of life. We begin to understand that sharing our energy does not deplete it, it magnifies it. Imagine a dense, ancient forest caught in a fierce, howling storm. If a single tree tries to stand entirely on its own, keeping its roots shallow and separate from the rest, the harsh wind will eventually snap its stiff trunk in half. But beneath the dark soil, the roots of the oldest trees are not competing for space. They are hopelessly tangled, woven tightly together into a vast, unbreakable, subterranean net. When the violent wind pushes against one tree, the entire forest holds it up. The strength of one becomes the survival of all. In our modern careers, we almost always try to weather the storm completely alone. We see a brilliant new co-worker, and instead of intertwining our roots with theirs, we pull away. We desperately try to prove we are strong enough to stand by ourselves, but the relentless pressure to succeed is a very heavy wind. When we finally let down our guard, put down our armor, and choose to build something together, the crushing burden of perfection is instantly lifted. Their fresh talent gracefully covers your weak spots. Your deep experience calmly guides their new energy. Ask yourself, how much lighter would your days feel if you stopped viewing this person as a dangerous threat and started viewing them as a powerful partner? Think about your own life. What incredible things could you build if you stopped spending all your precious energy trying to aggressively protect your own tiny patch of soil? Pause. Breathe. The next time you find yourself wanting to withhold an idea just to maintain an invisible advantage, gently release that tight, fearful grip. Offer a small piece of your knowledge freely. Ask them for their honest opinion. Invite them naturally into your process. Let the heavy, silent wall between you safely fall. Because peace is not found by standing alone on a lonely, fragile pedestal. It is found by leaning softly into the shared strength of the people around you. But choosing this kind of connection is impossible if we are still secretly desperate for the boss's applause. And this is where the next truth begins. 8. The power of releasing the need for approval. What if the invisible cage you are trapped inside was entirely built by your own hands? Here is a truth that is incredibly hard to accept. Your worth does not require an audience. When a brilliant new colleague arrives and effortlessly captures the attention of the room, the sharp pain we feel is rarely about the work itself. It is about a sudden, terrifying lack of applause. We wait so eagerly for our manager's nod. We refresh our screens hoping for an email that praises our effort. We quietly perform our daily tasks, while secretly begging for the reassurance that we are still important. We willingly hand the heavy keys to our emotional stability to the people sitting across the meeting room table. And when their attention inevitably shifts to someone new, our entire sense of self collapses into the dust. Buddhism teaches us about the deeply ingrained human trap of the worldly winds. Two of these fierce winds are praise and blame. In Buddhist thought, these winds are always blowing, constantly shifting direction without any warning. When we attach our inner peace tightly to praise, we guarantee that we will be instantly destroyed by blame, criticism, or even simple silence. The spiritual practice of equanimity invites us to stand firmly in our own quiet center. It teaches us to observe the shifting winds of human opinion as they pass by, without allowing them to uproot our soul. Imagine a small, beautifully crafted wooden boat floating on the surface of a vast, unpredictable ocean. When the weather is perfectly clear and a warm wind gently pushes the sails, the boat feels powerful and secure. But when the wind suddenly changes direction or stops entirely, the boat is violently tossed by the cold waves. If the boat relies entirely on the changing weather to feel safe, it will spend its entire existence in a state of terror. But beneath the chaotic, noisy surface of the water, the deep ocean remains perfectly still. The deep water does not care which way the wind blows. It simply is. In our professional lives, we almost always live on the crashing surface of the waves. We let a quiet manager, a distracted boss, or an enthusiastic new colleague completely dictate our emotional weather for the week. We exhaust ourselves, constantly adjusting our sails, desperately trying to catch every tiny breeze of approval. When someone else catches that wind instead, we feel like we are rapidly sinking. We completely forget the deep, quiet, unbreakable stillness that exists within us, a stillness entirely independent of the noisy storm above. Ask yourself, who actually holds the power to decide your value today? Think about your own life. Are you doing this work because it brings you a quiet sense of purpose? Or are you just performing endlessly for a round of applause that will never actually be loud enough? Pause. Breathe. The next time you feel that heavy, desperate hunger for a compliment, gently pull your energy back into your own chest. Notice the craving without judging it. Remind yourself that you do not need external permission to feel proud of your own honest effort. Do the work beautifully, give it your full attention, and then firmly detach from how it is received. Let the silence be a space of rest, not a space of fear. Because true peace is not found by collecting enough praise to finally feel safe. It is found by realizing you are entirely whole, even in absolute silence. But finally releasing this exhausting need for approval brings us to the deepest, most beautiful realization of all. And this is where the final truth begins. 9. Making peace with your own unique path. What if the arrival of this talented new person was never meant to break you, but to finally set you free? Here is the most beautiful truth of all. You were never in a race to begin with. We started this journey looking at the heavy, exhausting burden of constant comparison. We felt the sharp, familiar sting of the mind when someone brilliant walks into the room, and the sudden, silent terror that their light somehow diminishes our own. We saw how easily we weaponize our own ambition, turning our daily work into a desperate, punishing battle to prove our worth. We tied our entire existence to a fragile identity, waiting endlessly for the shifting winds of approval to tell us we are safe. But you do not have to live this way anymore. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that true liberation comes the exact moment we stop fighting reality. We suffer because we cling tightly to the illusion that we must control how we are seen. We suffer because we desperately believe there is not enough room, not enough respect, and not enough success to hold us all. But when you finally realize that the river is vast and unending, the panic naturally dissolves. The new colleague is not a threat meant to erase you. They are simply a mirror, a teacher, and a fellow traveler walking their own deeply uncertain path. Imagine that quiet, dark room one last time. You are the candle, burning steadily, providing your own unique warmth. When the second candle is placed beside you, you do not have to flicker. You do not have to struggle to burn brighter, hotter, or more fiercely just to prove you belong on the table. You simply continue to exist, exactly as you are. Together, you both just make the room a little easier to see in. When you let go of the heavy, invisible armor of competition, a profound relief washes over your life. You give yourself the beautiful permission to step off the battlefield. Your ambition stops being a cold, exhausting chain dragging you forward out of fear and slowly transforms back into a joyful expression of who you are. You begin to work not to outshine others, but to honor the deep, quiet roots of your own unique tree. Think about your own life. Think about the incredible freedom of simply doing your work, beautifully and honestly, without needing it to defend your right to exist. What if you allowed life to flow exactly as it is, trusting that your place in the world is already secure? Pause, breathe, drop the weight. You no longer have to guard the door. You no longer have to measure every tiny victory against someone else's journey. You are allowed to rest in your own quiet center, completely untouched by the noise around you. Let them be brilliant, and in return, let yourself be entirely free. If these lessons touched your heart, share this video with someone who may need a little more peace today. You can let go now.